Now, we know that this crossover was a backdoor pilot for Batwoman. Could this crossover also be a backdoor pilot to a Superman TV show starring Tyler Hoechlin?
Man, I think, honestly, I might have to ask for another weather forecast segment on this one. Because that would be big. We would do a special episode for that if that happened. So, I don't know, what percent chance on this?
Okay. This is honestly how I think it is. 50.1.
So you're leaning.
I'm leaning towards it.
Maybe they're. I don't know. Could they be kind of testing it, and if it works out, and it's
I think it's like if they see the positive reaction to Superman, then they're going to greenlight it.
I think you've sold me. I'm at a 50.1 as well.
So.
And we'll get into it a little watching this. Maybe I have a little bit more of an attachment than I realized, because I did used to catch episodes of Smallville back in the early aughts. Or I think I got it wrong before. When did Smallville start airing? What was the?
It premiered in 2001, so you probably saw reruns when they moved to the ABC Family, which would have been during season 4. It would have been later.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember. I remember liking that show a lot and watching it quite a bit. But that's obviously kind of an odd, like, early exposure to Superman. It's not like the most traditional.
You know what? I will say that it probably is. Even without the suit, I would almost say is the most Superman show we've ever had. Well, most Superman adaptation we've ever had since Christopher Reeve. Because even when it's just him in the blue shirt, the red jacket, like, he's still secretly Superman. Yeah.
Like, I think I would agree, but it's that secretly. It's like it's not so on the nose that he's like, lifting cars.
You ever wonder if there was someone who watched the finale and didn't get it? Like, wait, you mean all this time?
What?
This dude's Superman? What?
Yeah.
It's not just a coincidence his name is Clark Kent?
Yeah. I just thought it was an homage.
Yes.
Other than that, I know that I've vaguely seen Superman as a character that I recognize in, like, when I'd see a Justice League episode here and there, and there's that guy that was friends with Batman. I know Superman like that.
Oh yes.
I know. I know Zack Snyder's version of Superman because this is the most, like, recent one in movies.
Didn't you say you saw Superman Returns?
Oh right, yeah. I saw one of the I saw, like, I think that's what, like, the late 2000s one.
Yeah, the one with Brandon Routh.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So a bit of a mixed history.
Yeah, a little bit mixed history. But
you're like, does he have to put on the costume? It was fine when he just had the red jacket.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's some context of me going into a Superman special. So I'll turn it over to you. Did you have much? Yeah, I mean, I see you're wearing a Superman hat. Do you know about the character?
Yes, I may know a little bit about the character. So for me, my introduction to Superman, just like how my introduction to Batman was in Batman the Animated Series, my introduction to Superman was Superman the Animated Series, watching that every weekday or Saturday morning on Kids WB. It was great. I loved it when they would always do the new Batman Superman adventures where they would pair Batman and Superman together. Always felt like there was more Superman episodes than Batman, but luckily in this world of streaming, you have access to all of them now. Yeah. It's not like, will this be a Superman day or a Batman day?
Yeah.
And also the Justice League animated series kept Superman in my head going forward. My second favorite character on that show after Batman. Now, my first live action version of Superman was Smallville. And I remember for years going to Target, seeing a box set for a show called Smallville, and wondering, why does it have the Superman logo on this box?
Yeah.
And walking away, never bothering to read what was actually on it. Just, oh, it's got the Superman logo. That's weird.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was reading like the Disney magazine that we had subscribed to, and then it said Superman's coming to DVD in Smallville season 2. And I was like, oh, I guess it is a Superman type thing, huh? They didn't just rip off that logo.
Huh, yeah.
So I remember around that time, the show was going to premiere in syndication on ABC Family. And I decided, I like Superman. I'll watch it. Sure. Let's see what it's like. And I watched it, and it just blew my mind. After watching, I was so excited. I was like, wow, this is what you could do, not only with superhero TV shows, but it really did kind of change my view of Superman. Like, I'd always liked Superman, but Smallville really made me see Superman in a whole different way.
Yeah.
And then around that time, Christopher Reeve had recently passed, and there was a lot of talk about his Superman movies. So after watching Smallville, I was like, well, let's see what happens later. So I rented the first Christopher Reeve Superman movie. I enjoyed it, but I didn't really get into it that much. Like, it wasn't until like when they announced season 10 was going to be the last season of Smallville, which would have been like 6 years after I watched that Christopher Reeve movie, and we saw where he was going. I popped it in, and then after having more seasons of Smallville, I was like, oh, I finally get it now.
Yeah.
And then, but my live action Superman, where he was actually in the suit, was the 50s George Reeves show. And I thought that was great. We saw Clark Kent as a reporter. That was kind of the main thing. And he becomes Superman to fight gangsters and everything. And it was awesome. So overall, those were my greatest and what led to me becoming a fan of Superman.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I can't ask you this because I guess this really is. So normally, if this was an MCU type thing, we'd ask, what was your introduction to the MCU or DCEU? What was your introduction to the DCEU? This was your introduction to the Arrowverse.
I was gonna say, if you were to ask that, I would say, let's see, about 24 hours ago.
Yes.
or you could argue, you could argue the little clips you've shown me on this podcast.
Yes, that Superman special we did 2 years ago was basically like a Cliff Notes version of everything that's happened.
Yeah, I do have the Cliff Notes version for sure.
Yes. So for me, introduction to the Arrowverse, October 2012. Arrow is going to premiere. Now, this is important because there were two things working against it. One was, how in the world is an Arrow show supposed to follow up the greatness that was Smallville? Another thing was, how is that this was coming out a few months after The Dark Knight Rises, which, I mean, to take you back to 2012, earlier in the year, we had the Avengers and the Amazing Spider-Man, which I would say are perfect adaptations of those characters. And then The Dark Knight Rises came, and I hated it so much. It brought out the flaws in the previous Nolan movies that I had lost interest in live action superhero stories. So, I can honestly say that if it weren't for Arrow, this show probably wouldn't exist, because I don't know if anything else but Arrow could have gotten me back into live action superheroes.
Yeah. So
we had this Arrow. We knew it was going to be not only kind of our first Batman type thing post Dark Knight Rises, in a way, it was going to be a bit of a do-over of the Dark Knight trilogy. And I watched it, enjoyed it, but was still just like, what's the point? We all know it's going to have a terrible finale, so why waste time getting invested? It wasn't until the Christmas episode 9 episodes later, I was just like, wow, that was really good. Where we kind of transitioned from Batman Begins to the Dark Knight for Green Arrow.
Yeah.
And then season 2 came, fixed a lot of the issues I had with the Dark Knight Rises. And I was like, if it were to end here at season 2, it would be satisfying. So, and then we got 8 years later. It eventually did have a terrible series finale. Dare I say, yes, worse than the Dark Knight Rises. But yet,
wowie,
if you take away those horrible last 3 episodes, that 8-year thing pretty much did everything I'd wanted the show to do. And we already had the perfect series finale that they say is an Elseworlds thing, but no, darn it, it's perfect, which is Star City 2046 from Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there was that. Then 2 years later, they'd done a great job with Green Arrow, but could they do The Flash, which not a lot of people can do something grounded like Green Arrow and do something like spectacular or more sci-fi like The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
And The Flash premieres. It's great. It does a great job of being different from Arrow. And we have, for the first time, a DC, well, in live action, a DC television universe. And for me, as much as I was like hopeful for Batman versus Superman to be good, for me, this was the DC universe of the 2010s.
Yeah.
So we had that. Then we had Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow and Black Lightning and Stargirl. And Supergirl season 2, it was the first time we were going to be introduced to their version of Superman. Now, I don't know if I ever said this on this show. I remember after Batman versus Superman came out, like before Supergirl aired, I was like, there's no way they're ever going to have Superman on the show. But in the middle of season 1, Batman versus Superman comes out, tanks the franchise, guys. I mean, when you look at BVS, people who liked it for Batman. The people who didn't like it, most of their issues were with Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
when you get out of that movie, Superman was the weakest part of that movie.
Yeah, that is literally something I heard about it after it came out, even though I hadn't seen it in theaters. I remember people talking about like the Batman parts are okay.
Yes. So Superman was in trouble. And then I thought, maybe during the season 1 finale, there's a chance. Maybe we won't see Superman, but we'll see Clark Kent. And I even wrote on Facebook, I didn't think it was possible, but I think there's a good chance we'll see not Superman, but Clark Kent show up in the Supergirl season finale. And I even said, if it's just Clark Kent and it's just a one-time appearance, I could almost see it being Tom Welling, even though it wouldn't make sense continuity-wise.
Yeah.
And then the finale happens, and there was no Clark Kent. It was just, we only saw Superman's boots. Because, I mean, you saw what they did in the pilot, right? How they blacken out his face and all that from like the shadow and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, well, no Superman. Then in the summer, we find out Superman's coming to Supergirl. And we found Tyler Hoechlin is going to be our new Superman. And the episode premiered, and it was great. Tyler Hoechlin, great Superman. And it was the first time since Smallville ended, 5 years previously, that felt like we had an actual Superman story in live action. And then he came back multiple times in Elseworlds and Crisis on Infinite Earths. Not great crossovers, but in crossovers that had Flash, Green Arrow, and Supergirl, it was Tyler Hoechlin's Superman that was the standout. So that was great to see. He was the best character in those crossovers, even if the crossovers weren't that great. So we found out over a year ago that there was going to be a Superman Lois TV show.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll turn over to you. Now, again, as someone who was introduced to the Arrowverse 24 hours ago, God, I hate how I've given in to calling it that. But someone who is, I mean, you kind of like been, about the Arrowverse, I guess, good enough.
Yeah.
How important was the addition of a Superman TV show, both to the Arrowverse and for Superman as a character? How important was this for them?
Um, Having come into it just about as recently as someone could have come into it, um, framing it that way, I do think that there isn't I was gonna say there isn't a more iconic character they possibly could have. I mean, debatably, Batman,
I
but
mean, those are
without.
pretty much tied, and then
Yeah, I
that's
know.
it.
Um, like a show where the first word is Superman, and that's your show. It's a Superman show. It feels like an easier way to introduce someone into this universe of DC shows than anything they've had previous. Um, and maybe that's why, somewhere deep in my brain, why I did watch this and not past things. But I don't know, because with Gotham, which is maybe the only one you could argue would be something that would get people into it. It's called Gotham, not Batman. That's something. But the biggest thing is just that everyone kind of knows that it's not gonna be just like a a Batman show. Like if someone says a Batman show, that's not necessarily what you're getting
Yeah,
from
it's not a live
episode one,
action
season one.
Batman the animated series.
And yeah. So I feel like that's maybe not as great of a pull as what I think Superman and Lois could be, which is a pretty straightforward Superman TV series, which is a great introduction to any DC universe you've got going.
Yeah, for me, this show was very important to the Arrowverse for two reasons. One was because, like you said, it is the most famous character they've ever adapted. And the other thing is this: Arrow was gone, and for the first 8 years of this universe, well, I guess six since Flash came later, Flash and Arrow were the anchor characters of this universe. Some may argue Supergirl, and if you want to say that, I'd agree with that too. But for the most part, Green Arrow and the Flash were kind of the anchors of this universe, kind of like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Captain America, Iron Man, I'd almost argue Hulk as well, were the anchors of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And with Arrow gone, and who knows how long the Flash will still go, you needed an anchor to take Green Arrow's spot. And who
Yeah.
better than Superman? So that was great. And also, adding Superman gives this universe a little more life left. Like, the Flash has been renewed for season 8, but having Superman there, it just gives it more life to keep going for a little bit. Now, I would say whenever Superman Lois does end, it will be time to end the Arrowverse. But for now, it's just smooth sailing ahead.
Ah, how nice.
Yes. So we talked about the Arrowverse, but in a world post Man of Steel, post Batman versus Superman, and we're kind of talking about maybe rebooting a Superman film franchise. How important was this show for Superman as a character?
Interesting. I think it's really great to give the character kind of a new baseline. Here's solidly another version that it feels like a new era that can kind of serve as a baseline. The thing I don't know, and I won't have any insight in terms of predictions, is I don't really know like I honestly don't know how this show is doing in terms of like its reach and how popular it is, how much people are talking about it.
Let's
I,
just
I
say that
really have no idea. So,
it is the most streamed show they've ever had on the CW app. They renewed it for season 2 after one episode,
wow.
and it's their most watched DC show now.
Interesting. See, I kind of did want to wait to hear some of that stuff for the podcast today because I was really I wasn't sure, like, because part of me was like, uh it'd be kind of a shame if they straight up make a Superman show and people like almost like with Smallville where it's just like, is that a Superman show?
Yes,
But it's kind of hard when
people
it's
are
called
unsure. They're like,
yeah.
"Is that Superman?" Now, in a post Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel world, this show was very important for Superman as a character because, unlike when Superman Returns came out, we still had Smallville going on, and like most of us, when we think of Superman from the 2000s, our first thought isn't Brandon Routh, it's Tom Welling.
Yeah.
So Smallville was keeping Superman alive even when Superman Returns failed to launch. And when Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman happened, we didn't have an alternate Superman to have. So this was really going to put the character back on track because in like the TV shows, like for some reason, I don't get why they do this in the movies. In the movies, they'll allow the director and screenwriter to do whatever they want, versus like DC has more control over the TV shows about making sure you stay in character.
Yeah.
And also with having Superman to TV, because you couldn't do another Superman movie right now or it would flop because those two killed the franchise. Like, just look at Justice League's box office. And the thing is that you gain Superman for free, and we're spending a week to week time with him. Like, when I think about like Gotham and the Adam West Batman show, I see those versions like once a week most of the time, versus with like Michael Keaton, I see him like 2 or 3 times a year. So you get more attached to that version of the character.
Yeah.
And I think overall television is where you can tell Superman stories the best, because you can have every once in a while, you can have him just go after a gangster or something. It doesn't always have to be the world is in jeopardy. You can have smaller scale stories.
Yeah. Which I appreciate.
Yes. And also, this was another important thing was that this was the show to follow Smallville. And
That's true.
I don't know how we can say other than when you think about who are the most beloved Superman actors, the people who don't say Christopher Reeve say Tom Welling. Like, when you think about Tom Welling was this generation's Christopher Reeve. Mm-hmm. So to follow up that version, those are some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
I mean, just remember when we did our Crisis talk and everyone was so excited for Tom Welling popping up? That was the guest star people were most excited about.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was not only like redeeming the characters, like, hey, you had to follow up the gold standard, the one that every show from Arrow to Flash to Gotham to Supergirl has followed the template of since it ended 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. So let us get into the anticipation for the premiere of Superman and Lois. So now, let's be honest, you watch this for the show, and good on you for it. Next time there's a horror movie on Netflix or HBO you want to do a special on, we'll do that.
You know, it might not, you know, there are non-horror things. I won't necessarily subject you to that. But I've watched a lot of things that I wanted to watch, but maybe was too lazy to like watch because of this show. And I don't want to say I've never regretted it. I've I'm glad to have done it. Yeah. I mean, it helps me to stay on top of it's a little like everyone knows the experience of someone talking about a show that's really good and then you just kind of go, huh, yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
You're like, one day I will.
Yeah, yeah. When I'll add it to my list for sure. Yeah, sounds cool. Um, but I have an excuse to actually to do it for real. So I don't regret it.
All right. Now, anticipation for this show. Where was your anticipation? Were you thinking it would be more of a Smallville type thing, or were you maybe a little worried it would be more Superman Returns or Man of Steel?
Uh, I think that I had my excitement wasn't like off the charts because there's nothing in my past or in my framework for that to have happened. It would be kind of out of nowhere for a CW like Arrowverse show of which I've never had any connection to, for this to be like, oh my gosh, like so I wasn't there, but I think I was expecting more of the Smallville side of things, especially from like the title and the little I'd heard about it. So that did make me more excited than if we were getting a more like, I don't know, hard fantasy sci-fi sort of strictly Superman kind of thing. So that definitely did make me go like, I do want to check this one out actually. Um,
Which one
so
were you more excited for? This Superman or Superman Snyder cut? Which one were you more excited to see?
this, I'd say, yeah, I'd probably say this. I wasn't. Next episode is going to be Snyder cut. We'll talk all about that later, so we won't get too much into it. But I wasn't expecting anything radically different from Superman in the Snyder cut. So yeah, this was it for me. It felt like a fully new, like, okay, let's see this version of Superman, because it was a chance to start new with the character for me. So
Oh yes. Now for me, the countdown to the premiere of this show was like movie level hype. Like I was counting down the weeks, the days until we finally got that premiere. And I would almost say, I don't think I've been this hyped for a TV pilot since Gotham or The Flash in 2014. And those are my Snyder cut notes. And I'll be honest, the week of, I started getting a little nervous for two reasons. One, I'll just throw it out there. Last time we had a character in a shared universe that had a great introduction as a guest star and not a good as a lead was Spider-Man Homecoming.
right.
So there was a little bit like, I don't know, like everything's kind of riding on the future of this franchise with Superman. And also, there was the whole thing of, rightly or wrongly, there's a bit of, am I putting too much pressure on this show to be as good as Smallville? Because that is a very high goal. And I didn't want to be like, if it's good, that should be good enough. But I'm like, but you're trying not to be like, all right, be to that level that Smallville was.
It's tough to tame that that expectation, that urge to compare it so strongly to what came before.
Yes. Now, the day of the premiere, February 23rd, 2021, the most important day of the year, I might say.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like a holiday.
Some people got vaccinated. Some people...
Oh, yes. Some people got vaccinated. Some people, life got back to normal. Wait, did you get vaccinated on February 23rd?
It was March 23rd, actually. I
Oh,
was the 23rd was
month
in my head,
later.
but no, I was trying to do a bit where I was trying to make it seem not that important, but that's probably not good to do on a Superman and Lois special.
Oh, yes. So February 23rd, it felt like a holiday. I woke up, it may not be Christmas, but it was, dare I say, on the level of Halloween. Like the day starts out normal, but when it gets 8 o'clock,
Oh, that's
it's
good.
going to
I like
be
that analogy.
a big event. Yes.
I like that analogy. Those I never thought of that. I'm gonna start using that. Christmas is you're excited to go to bed. Halloween is you're
Yes.
excited for it to get later in the day.
Oh, yes. So counting down, big event. One of the few shows I actually watched when it aired. Because normally I'll watch it on demand.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, was I ready to watch it when it premiered. And oh, was I hyped.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I told you this because you didn't watch it when it aired. You watched it last night.
Yeah, I watched it.
I freaked
I watched it
out.
on April Fool's Day.
Oh, yeah.
So we're quite a while after.
I freaked out when I first started watching the pilot because there was an issue with our local CW where there was no sound and it was just clicking noises. Like in the pilot where you see his ship going to Earth.
Yeah.
There's no sound, it's just clicking. I'm like, no, this is not happening. Of all nights, dear God, not tonight.
Yeah.
But then luckily it came back on. When I rewatched it on iTunes, I realized that it came on right before you heard Clark say his first line. So, that was definitely a sigh of relief.
Yeah. Wow. The stresses of live TV. Haven't experienced that.
I know. Normally, back when I used to watch SNL, you're hoping, will there be an F-bomb drops? But no, this was, I just want to hear what Superman has to say.
Yeah.
All right, so let us get into it. I don't know who we want to have go first. For when we talk about our initial thoughts on the return of the Man of Steel to television.
Yeah. I'm often worried in times where one of us usually me clearly has just less informed to say. I think it's important. Don't fire me or anything, but I think that there's an important outsider perspective, the comment section, if you will. But I'm often afraid that if my opinion goes first, it will just be the. I think I serve better as more of a reactor, the comment section.
Yes.
So I would implore you to go first for sure.
All right, let's get into Superman Lois. Our initial thoughts. All right, I had sky high expectations for this pilot. Very high, almost impossibly high.
Yeah.
And I freaking loved it. It was awesome. It was great. It was everything I'd hoped it to be and more. I would say this is the best pilot the Arrowverse has ever done. And I think it also helped probably that it had that 90-minute runtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best pilot they've ever had. And dare I say, it's tied, because you can't beat perfection.
Yeah.
It's tied with the Smallville pilot as the best superhero pilot I've ever seen.
Wow.
So, yes.
Wow.
Sky high expectations. Somehow, some way, they found a way to beat them. So I shall turn to you and ask, what are your initial thoughts on the pilot? Well, I guess we can say for the first 2 episodes of Superman Lois.
Yeah, I love positivity on this show. It's great to hear. I'm going to do a quick preface. Since my excitement was lower than yours going in, I didn't know what to expect. There's something I've felt about the CW shows and the Arrowverse that I haven't known how to articulate and never said, but there's this, for lack of a better term, like a vibe. It's maybe a little bit the acting, a little bit the script, a little bit the way it's shot, where it just feels a little off from most shows. I don't know what it is, if it's the budget, but this is not about Superman and Lois. This is about everything else I've seen so far, where I was just like, I don't know if I could like just sit there and watch that. It just is not that it's bad, but that it's like there's something off about it to me.
It doesn't look like a DCEU movie.
Yeah, it's that puts a lot of the shows lower on my watch list. I say this to say that that was a worry going into this, that it was going to like just have that off feeling that I can't explain. To me, this show didn't have that at all, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was just it just was over. I mean, it was overall just really incredible in every like I didn't get that feeling at all. I thought that I was immediately driven from just kind of passively watching it to being captivated and paying close attention to it. I think I'm really excited for it to be maybe an introduction that could maybe take that weird funk off of some of the other series, because I mean, but even if this is the only like Arrowverse show that I end up watching, it seems like an incredible standalone. I am really enjoying it so far. The pilot was great. Like I said, I've seen the first 2 episodes. I definitely thought the pilot was incredible and my favorite.
You've seen 2 episodes.
Yes. The pilot was my favorite of the 2 so far. And I don't know. I mean, we'll get into more details, but I also thought it was incredible.
Yes. So shall we, as we do normally for these type of specials, we get into what we thought worked in the episode. So I guess later we'll get into episode 2, but for right now we'll focus on the pilot. So for this episode, one of the first things we should bring up is the adaptation they've done of Superman in the show. Now for me, so excited because finally, it had been 10 years since Smallville ended. We finally had a true live action version of Superman again. And they did something I've been wanting the movies to do, but for some reason they just never get it. They focused on Clark Kent is supposed to be the relatable part of the character instead of Superman and just making him sad. Yeah. I also liked how we saw Superman in a different part of his life, kind of like Peter B. Parker and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, so I talked about how, for me, when Tyler Hoechlin finally gets his show, he'll be one of the definitive 5 Supermen, along with George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, and Tom Welling. And for me, after watching that pilot, he not only became one of the definitive 5, he is tied with Christopher Reeve and Tom Welling as my favorite Superman actor.
Wow, yeah.
Yes.
Even from just first impressions, this isn't like hard to do for me or anything, but like I'm like in going into it, I'm incredibly happy at like who's playing Superman essentially. Like it makes me really invested in the character the way.
Besides the fact that he just has your name.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that's the only reason. He's actually a very gifted and talented man.
Oh,
if you think about it.
Someday, if we ever redesign our logo, we'll have it where you're in the Tyler Hoechlin Superman suit and I'll be in the Adam West Batman suit.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
We'll be yelling Martha.
Yes. Wow, that's great. Didn't we have one of our episodes was Adam v. Tyler?
Oh yeah, the Spider-Man Homecoming one.
Yeah. And it's even in the right order.
Oh yes. So yeah. So did you have anything else to say about, well, we'll get more into the story, but your thoughts on this version of Superman?
It was great. I didn't I knew little enough about the show going into it that I didn't know that it was like what time in Superman's life it was going to be. And as it was starting, I was like, oh, so okay, so we're trending toward he's going to be like a father Superman later in his life. They zoom past him already having met and known Lois, and I was just like, oh, interesting part of life for this to be in, unique. Let's see how they do it. And
Yes.
I mean, the decision to do that might be the best part of the show. I mean, we'll get into it, but I really love the dynamic of it, of him being Daddy Superman and having his twins who are older. It's interesting.
Yeah, it was a nice change of pace because, well, the movies weren't successful. We had just had both a television show and a movie franchise that focused on younger Superman. So it was a nice change
Mhm.
of pace.
Yeah.
It also lines up to where the comics are now. So that's cool to see.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
All right. Now let's talk about Lois Lane in this show. Elizabeth Tulloch, who made her first appearance in the Elseworlds crossover and was great in it. So I really enjoyed this version of Lois Lane. I thought that she was great again as Lois. It was really nice to see her and Clark in a different stage of the relationship than we're used to seeing them in.
Yeah.
And we see like she clearly loves him, but she'll also just like stand up to him and call him out on stuff. So I think Smallville talks about it. I think we really see it here how like Lois grounds Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was great. So what are your thoughts on this version of Lois Lane played by Elizabeth Tulloch?
Yeah, I obviously with the name being Superman and Lois, I was looking for is it like there's got to be a reason they fully named the show after both of them. And having watched the first and second episode, I guess I'll talk about the second episode a little here because I'm starting to see where they're really taking this as it's really like a tag team show about Superman and Lois dealing with things.
And that's a lot of times. I mean, we didn't see it in the previous movies, but a lot of times, like we see that with Clark and Lois and like working on the Daily Planet and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I in the way that you mentioned that Lois grounds Superman, I think that Lois also like grounds the show in a lot of these more down to earth real world problems that are really interesting. That are so well plotted to me that there's potential. Again, 2 episodes in, I'm maybe a little more invested in her storyline of quitting the Daily Planet and like giving it to the man. Like that's a more interesting story to me than what Superman's dealing with. And I know they're intertwined.
You haven't seen episode 3, but yeah, they do intertwine.
Yeah, I know that they're intertwined, but it's just the sort of like giving it to the man, like more the news angle is very interesting. And honestly, like if there is more like Superman stuff like that is like has to do with like media and obviously like it seems obvious now because like they work for a newspaper, so there's probably tons of like Superman comics that delve into that kind of stuff. But that's really interesting to me, and that's something that could make the character and Lois Lane more interesting characters to me. So yeah, I potential to be my favorite part of the show. I think I love both Superman and Lois in Superman and Lois.
Yes, it would be very bad if only half of the title worked.
Yeah.
All right. So let's also talk about their sons, Jonathan and Jordan. One from the comics, one original to the TV show.
Mhm.
So now we knew that they were going to have a significant amount of screen time, kind of like if you're going to do a Batman show, Robin would obviously have a significant amount of screen time.
Yeah.
As we saw in like the Joel Schumacher movies, Robin kind of has his own journey in those movies, besides just being with Batman all the time. So that was something I was a little worried about, but I do have to say I do like these characters. I think that they work well as a pair. I
Mhm.
really like their relationship of, yeah, sometimes they don't like each other because how boring would it be if it's like
Yeah.
Rod and Todd Flanders? I love you, brother. I love you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's hold hands and skip. It'll be fun. But
Yeah.
no, this was, we see them fight, but you can still see how they clearly do care for each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whether it's like at the funeral where Jonathan tells Jordan about like he gives him some food because he has to take his pill or whatever,
Mhm.
or how we'll talk about later, but how seeing Jonathan in trouble is what gets Jordan to have his powers.
Yeah. It's like they hate each other like adolescent brothers do, but they deep down care for each other in a very substantial way that
Yes,
shows a
they're
lot.
frenemies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
um
maybe they picked it up for when Bruce would visit for Thanksgiving or whatever with Clark.
yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on Jonathan and Jordan?
Um I mean, yeah, this is something like you said you were worried about it. Um like as I was starting to realize like, oh, we're gonna have some teen sons as part of this. It brings it makes it something that's harder to do good, I guess. Uh but I mean with my history of you take uh with my history for some reason really liking like teen drama like sort of weird thing it sounds like I
I
guess
don't like it when teens are happy. I like it when they're sad.
I mean here's the comparison that came to my mind and it's possible. I'm curious if anyone else has thought this. Um but it's so just it feels like such a stretch, but to me it feels right. Uh and I don't know how much crossover there even is between these two fan bases, but the thing I kept thinking while watching this, and this is especially true with the addition of these like teenagers dealing with their teenage drama problems while also having to deal with a superpower type thing. There is this video game series that uh is sort of like it's kind of like the Telltale games where it's like you're playing a story
Oh
but it's not
yeah,
a Telltale game. That is probably one of the pieces of media that has affected me most in my life. It's called Life is Strange. And I kept getting the feel of that game franchise while watching the pilot of Superman and Lois. Uh this weird atmosphere of uh this teen drama with this very serious problem overlying it, and like with a teenager like discovering that they have powers. That this happens in Life is Strange. um and something about like the music too, like it just felt it gave it this very like happy somber vibe that was very unique, that I really liked because it reminded me of that game franchise. But yeah, it adds a different layer of drama to the series that is interesting. Um see there's really like three layers of the show to get invested in unless I'm missing one. But yeah, like um there's a ton of layers that keep coming to mind, but I was thinking like Superman the fatherly sort of angle, Lois Lane and her job, and the kids and their like romance slash like the football teams crush, all that kind of stuff. It They really at every level brought it down to earth, and it's interesting. It's
Yeah, like one like compared to other Superman incarnations, one of like the most human we've seen Clark in a while is in the pilot where he goes to see Jonathan or Jordan in their different rooms, like where he talks to Jonathan about how he made varsity at the football team, or how he'll go to Jordan's room and talk about, hey, it's your first day at high school. High school was kind of rough for me. And in there, they reference both Christopher Reeve movies and Smallville in his dialogue to Jordan.
Yeah.
All right. So, also, what I liked is that they made it so that Jonathan and Jordan are like, they're not just young Clark Kent, like they're their own people, and we're seeing them react to things differently than we saw Clark did in Smallville.
Yeah. They have their own personalities, and they also aren't just like a weird cliche of twins.
Yes. Oh, did you ever see the Peanuts movie?
No.
No? Oh.
I have not. Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was gonna blow your mind for a second. Did you know Jordan was Linus in the Peanuts movie from 2015? But you didn't see
really?
it.
So
what does it
he
matter to
he would
you?
have been I guess it would is the voice like was he quite a bit younger?
Yeah.
Like okay.
It would have been like 6 years ago. Well, it came out 6 years ago, but they would have done the recording probably a few years before that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't actually know how old those actors are, but yeah, I would assume it's one of those situations where like it's surprising because he was like a much younger kid or something when he was doing Linus.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right. Now, normally we don't talk about this before we get into the story details, but it does have to be said. This is the most one of these shows has ever looked like a movie. And you can just tell that's like, okay, Smallville kicked off a wonderful era that the rest of the shows are following. Superman Lois is going to kick off a new era.
Yeah.
And just from the aspect ratio, which first I wasn't a fan of having bars, but I get it. It does look more cinematic that way.
Wait, so it was it's like skinnier this way? I don't
yeah, it has the bars
yeah.
on the top and bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you watch it on a computer or
I watched it on a TV, but I didn't even notice.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it has the bars on the top and bottom like you'd see on a movie. But yeah, just the special effects were amazing, and we'll get into it later. But man, that opening scene with Superman at the nuclear power plant, like it's so cinematic. They knew that having Superman, it was going to bring more eyes to this franchise than it's ever had before, especially since he's the lead. And they really went up there with like visually, it is the most impressive superhero show I've ever seen. So what'd you think about the visuals and special effects?
Well, I mean, I thought it was great. It definitely felt like a movie. Like the whole pilot was like I was watching a really great Superman. It was like I was watching the best Superman movie I'd ever seen. Again, haven't seen
again. It's not a high bar, but
for listeners that think I'm comparing it to like, oh, how could you? I probably haven't seen that.
Yeah, I like how we pointed out before. You've only seen the bad ones.
Yeah, exactly. This could be without having the other shows in long form to compare it to. I mean, this could be a little bit what I was talking about, where, I mean, I feel bad for like saying I maybe couldn't get into a show because it was like low budget or just kind of cheaply made with effects or quickly made. I don't know exactly what, but
Well, they don't have the highest budgets, but let me just, I got to point out, Man of Steel has better special effects than Christopher Reeve's Superman, and no one thinks Man of Steel. Well, there's but like no one thinks. Like it all comes down to writing, acting.
Yeah.
Like special effects, eventually everything's gonna look like crap. But
yeah,
what's the staying power is the story, and
for sure. Yeah. No, I think I guess to put what I was thinking of saying in a short way, I guess I lost my train of thought, man.
Talking about the visuals.
Yeah, the Superman and Lois has a like a movie like professionalism that from the little I've seen of other CW shows, it just felt a step up. I could clearly see that from the very beginning.
Yeah, I know. I remember they talked about how, when they started with Arrow, there wasn't as much competition, but now you've got HBO Max and Disney Plus. It's just there's so much competition now to get your eyes on content that they really had to go big. Now, shall we get into the plot of the episode?
Yeah, absolutely. The plot of the pilot.
Yes. Now, we alluded to this earlier, but, for me, while Batman is my favorite superhero, Superman has my favorite origin story. And part of me was thinking, man, I'm excited for Superman Lois, and I love what we've done previously, but it will feel a little less complete without the origin. But yet, they delivered it, and they gave it to us. A really short form, but it felt like, it's complete. It's nice to have the origin, see his dad's heart attack. No, he's not going to be a little wino who watches his dad get sucked up in the tornado. So that was nice to see, because I think the origin really makes Superman relatable. Like, he's not a billionaire who has all these gadgets. He really is, like, I would say he is DC's Spider-Man. Like, he is the most relatable character in there. It's because of Clark Kent and trying to figure out who I am, who I'm supposed to be. So I was so happy to see the origin story. So what'd you think about the way they did the origin story in here?
I mean, I liked I thought it was a really good idea that I mean, it makes it a really good starting point. Like I said, that I was happy that having gone in with this being the first thing, that it felt like they were giving a proper introduction to the show and to the character without being like, well, you should have seen these other shows and these other crossovers, or know about the character already or something. It was a nice, quick, not overbearingly long introduction that I mean, I knew some of it, but it was a really good recap.
Yes.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, I vaguely know the origin of Superman, and if you were to have but if you were to have asked me what it was, I would have been like, something with the planet. There's a planet. There's from space. Goes
from Krypton.
Kansas. Something happened. I would have been really pressed to give an exact thing. So for the not totally initiated, I think it's important to have that in there to really remind you this is a grounded character. Okay.
Yes.
It might literally not be in many ways.
Sometimes he doesn't care about gravity.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Now, let's talk about the first time we see Superman in this show. so many people. This clip I saw shown everywhere on social media, online after premiered, and I won't lie, part of me got a lump in my throat seeing it because, like other people said, it was the like I don't want to just like trash Man of Steel this whole thing. Like we're celebrating Superman Lois, but the last Superman watched his dad get sucked up in a tornado. The last one snapped a guy's neck. The last one said to Lois, "No one stays good in this world," as he went to fight Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one scene, they perfectly captured Superman, where, I mean, we actually had, well, we'll get into that in a second, but Superman saves the kid, brings him his hat, and says, "Here you go, friend." And was like, yes, that's Superman. And then when he says, "Thanks, my mom made the suit for me," and just flies away, it just, it in those, like, whatever it was, 45 seconds, it perfectly captured Superman. And it was the return of Superman after 10 years that we've waited since Smallville ended.
Yeah.
So, in a second, I will point out I was so glad I didn't get something spoiled for me because I gasped when this happened.
Oh.
I don't know if you know what it is.
I'm not sure. We'll go over
I gasped when it happened. I was like, "Oh, they didn't, but they did." So, what are your thoughts on that first action scene with Superman?
Yeah, that was a great scene. I was I didn't know, like, again, I didn't know what direction they were gonna, how grounded is this gonna be with a name like Superman and Lois, like all the way to Smallville groundedness. Didn't totally expect that, but that's one end. Or is this going to be more of a it definitely the origin followed by that great sort of action saving the day scene. It was just like, even if you only know Superman from pop culture, this show is right at the beginning giving you, yeah, Superman. This is Superman. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. It's just like, it was so like quintessentially Superman that even if you don't know much about the character, it feels right.
So for me, that was kind of a sigh of relief. Did you have like I don't know, were you a little worried about being like Man of Steel, Superman Returns? Did you have like a specific like sigh of relief moment of, all right, this is more like Smallville or the versions I don't know about?
I don't know what I guess I would have been a little worried if it were going in the direction of a sort of unenthusiastic Superman kind of thing. Like I want him to, I would definitely have wanted him, like he did in that scene, like talk to someone, get on their level, smile at them, just like connect with them as a human being. I mean, people, I'll keep always call the others Superman mopey, but that's, I would have, if there was a mopiness, I would have been disappointed.
Yes. All right, now let's get into the 2 Easter eggs that they did in this scene, which were great to see. Can you see it? Yes.
Yeah.
In that scene, they for his first appearance, they recreated the iconic cover of Action Comics #1. It's even a green car as well.
I did. Wow, that makes me want to. Yeah, I don't remember like the color of the car. I know it this part of the scene, but that's so interesting.
Oh, I've seen this scene so many times, and they have recreated it. They did it in Superman Returns, and they did it in Smallville. Except, in Smallville, he's cat. Yeah, well, I guess he did it in here too, but they did it in Superman Returns, and they did it in Smallville as well. So that was a really cool scene.
What's really cool. What's really cool about this, I think, like recreating this is like what I mentioned about like that even if you only know Superman from pop culture and you're watching this show, like this is the kind of thing in pop culture, like this is one of the most iconic comic covers of all time. Like it's a part of history, and people know this. This is like one of the things that people see when they hear about Superman. So if you're watching the pilot and something that reflects this comes up, like you might not, like me, it might not connect in your brain like, oh, they're referencing the cover. But somewhere deep down where all your like pop culture information is stored, like the iconicness of this is getting through for sure.
Yes, I love it whenever we see covers recreate. They did it in Batman versus Superman. There's a scene when Batman's fighting Doomsday. They recreated the cover of The Dark Knight Returns. And also in Civil War, between the battle of Captain America and Iron Man, they recreated the cover of the graphic novel.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that was awesome. And here's what, and now, if that wasn't good enough, the next thing they do, which blew my mind, I was so happy I didn't get spoiled it for me, was we had the Fleischer Superman suit. In his first appearance, we saw the actual first screen costume that we'd ever seen on the big screen of Superman, where we had the black logo, we had the red belt. It was just wow.
Yeah, I did note the like black logo. I thought it was really cool, but that was as far as it went. Wow.
Yes. So nice little reference to the original on-screen Superman.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the power plant scene, which was really cool. Yeah. So, also, I got to mention this. One thing I really liked, again, because we're moving forward in Superman's history than what we normally do.
Yeah.
Usually, Superman and General Lane have kind of a rocky relationship. Like, Lane doesn't really trust Superman. But it was nice to see, all right, time has moved on. They've worked together. Maybe that won't happen between Jameson and Spider-Man, but hey, it can at least happen with Sergeant Lane and Superman.
Yeah.
So we had that awesome scene happen, which took place at night, and it looked wonderful. That was really where both they showed off their special effects and they did what people have been wanting since Smallville. Just give us a scene where he's flying around in the suit. Just give us that. And they gave it to us, and it was glorious.
Yeah.
And even the moment where he freezes the ice, he freezes the lake, brings back a chunk of ice over the nuclear power plant. Nice little reference to Superman 3 with Christopher Reeve. Not a lot of great stuff in Superman 3 because he's sharing it with Richard Pryor, who took up most of the screen time. But that is one of the coolest moments from the movie Superman. It was nice to see it brought into television and updated with today's special effects. So, what are your thoughts about our first big action scene?
I mean, really, I don't have much to add than that, especially like compared to the the first scene of the first appearance of him. I think it was just with both of these scenes so close to the beginning of this, it really let you know what the show is going for, I think. And like I think that, like I mentioned, that I immediately was drawn from like passively watching it to being like really captivated by it. And I think that that was the showing that these scenes really both showed that the direction they're taking the show in. Like I already knew it was going to be grounded, and then they're not afraid of it being about Superman.
Yes.
I don't know if that makes sense. They're not the show isn't afraid that this is a Superman show.
It's embracing what it is.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things I gotta say again, because it's so important, is I'm so glad they did what was important and made it so that Clark Kent is the relatable part of the character, not Superman. I mean, Clark is the character we follow throughout the show mostly. He becomes Superman when he's needed. And
Yeah.
even in episode 5, they did a very Smallville type thing where they did an action scene with him out of the suit. But
Hmm.
yeah, so what'd you think about, in the movies, it was always him, being, oh, I'm an alien, I'm an outsider, I'm sad. And, even like in Man of Steel, he talks about how Zod can't be trusted. The trouble is, I'm not sure humans can be either, which is like he insulted literally everyone who watched the movie.
Yeah, that
but
does make him not very relatable, huh?
but yeah, I was so glad that they focused on making Clark Kent the relatable part. So what do you think? How is this Superman more relatable compared to previous incarnations that you've seen?
I mean, I think they are doing everything right in terms of the relatability of this version of Superman because all of the things you're saying were exactly why I've always been like a little perplexed at Superman as a character, where it's just like there's this like creepiness to it if you do it that way. Like uh it's really like an uncanny valley sort of thing where it's like he looks human but he's like weirdly robotically like not connecting to humans, and that's like a I can see why people would write it that way because it's an interesting aspect to like be on this planet where you're kind of one of them but you're something about you's different and you'll never be completely like them. Like I get that drama, but I don't think it's really what the main character who's supposed to be a relatable hero. I don't think it's the best way to do the character. I think this is the best way to do the character.
Yeah, especially when your character has so many superpowers. Like
Hmm.
the doing stuff like that makes him even less relatable. But this one, they did such a great job with their version of Clark Kent.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the death of Martha. Martha, why did you say that name? When we do Snyder Cut, we gotta make sure we pack in every Martha joke we can.
Yeah, we do. It should
Yes.
be uh some kind of uh some kind of drinking game, but without
Oh yes.
where we drink too much caffeine.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So the death of Clark's mother, it was I think it was really important because not only did it like set the story forward, but we saw Clark in a vulnerable place that we normally never do. Because Clark is used to being able to just save a person like from a bullet or from a car that's about to crush them. But this is one of those few moments where, just like his father's heart attack, there's nothing he can do.
Hmm.
And he's like, when you see him weeping over his mom, he's not used to this feeling of not being able to save someone.
Yeah.
And I thought that one of the things, again, talking about making this Clark relatable, is that when he gets the phone call from the doctor about what's happened with his mom, he doesn't care about his secret identity. He whooshes over there and he runs into the house. And even the nurse says, Clark, how'd you get here so fast? And that concern on his face for his mother. So, what did you think
Hmm.
about putting Superman in that position to where, kind of like his father, there's like a moment where he can't save someone and there's nothing he can do about
Yeah.
it?
Well, first of all, like the tension of that whole part of it, like especially when like she calls the night before and you can just tell that it's like that was my prediction as it was happening, and I feel like the movie was framing it to where you could feel that, where it was just like, I think this is going to be the last time they speak.
Yes.
Um, and
Glad he wasn't a jerk on the phone, too.
Yeah, it just and that's what it felt like, a conversation that was like when he hung up, I felt like I think that's the last time he's going to speak to her, and it wasn't bad, but it was just like so mundane, and he was just like,
It's
"All
just
right,
so
bye."
normal. There's nothing
Yeah, so
special.
it hurts like knowing what's about to happen, and just the mundaneness of it, where it's just like, oh, you're not gonna do anything, and I know something's about to happen. And the other thing I thought, what I really loved about him just rushing there as soon as he predicted the news, I guess, is like you could tell, like uh like he normally obviously you would assume tries to be more under the radar, not shock people.
And
But in
like
that moment, yeah,
beforehand, he's talking about how he's got to keep his secret safe from
mhm,
Jonathan and Jordan.
yeah, and he was in such a state of desperation that he didn't care that it was completely perplexing that he just was suddenly there.
Yeah.
He just was like, I'm there. I'm immediately there to tend to my mother. Um, I thought that was really really interesting.
Yeah. And speaking of how you talked about the final phone conversation he has with his mom, when
Yeah.
he's talking with her on the phone, if you look in the background, it says call Dr. Siegel, and another name is like something, an appointment with Mr. Schuster or something.
Oh.
Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, the creators of Superman.
Oh. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
nice little Easter egg they had there.
Yeah. That's cool.
Also, so when Jonathan and Jordan are at the Kent house, and I'm assuming they're just staying in Clark's old room,
Hmm.
there is a Smallville Crows flag, and Crows was the logo of the football team in the Smallville TV
Oh,
show.
really? I forgot. I don't know if I forgot or if I didn't know they were called the Smallville Crows, but I love that.
Yes.
Crows are my favorite animal. That's that's an incredible team mascot.
I know. You'll be trying to place bets on them. You're like, what do you mean Smallville doesn't exist? Yeah,
I
I see
know.
it on TV.
Yeah, suddenly I want that to be my personality. I'm gonna
Yes.
try. Yeah. I like sports now. Crazy.
Oh,
Anyway.
yes. All right. Now, at the funeral, well, I guess it's after the funeral, but they have the kind of that, not a party. What's the thing you have after a funeral where
Like
everyone kind of
awake.
gathers? A what?
I don't know if it. I know that sometimes it's called. No, I think awake. Is it
Isn't
awake?
that, is it wake when the body's out there?
I think that's, yeah. I think the awake is when the body is
A
out.
reception's like for weddings, right?
I think it could still be called a reception. Uh, I'm gonna look after funeral party for lack of knowing
Yes.
what else it's called.
Your mom's gonna search your history and be like, "What? What's going on?"
What? Uh,
Are all of our relatives okay?
I'm getting reception. I'm
Okay,
getting reception. No,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
no, yeah, reception is the
Double
word.
use right there.
uh, oh, awake is held before a funeral. That's right.
Okay. Yeah, so this would be the reception, I guess.
Yes.
So at the reception, now we've seen Clark is really, we saw the music montage. He's taking it very hard about what the loss of his mom. And we also have in there the introduction of Lana to the show. And I think having Lana there, as we see in later episodes, she really does kind of serve as like his best friend that isn't Lois. And I think having that, number one, it is a character that he would have a history with. And number two, it's a character that the audience already knows. Like, oh, you think of Kristen Kroc from Smallville or Annette O'Toole from Superman 3. So there's something familiar about it. And it makes you feel like, all right, this is someone who Clark can turn to when he is feeling down or whatever. So what'd you think about, I guess, the way they introduced Lana? We also found out that her husband was a little unhappy with one time where Lana was looking at Clark's Facebook page.
um, yeah, these characters. I like the addition of these characters. As a newbie, I was like trying to figure
Did you
out
know
the
at
really.
first that was Lana or
No, I didn't at first. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, that I have much to say. That was something where I was uh I wasn't noting that while I was watching it, I guess. But yeah, I like those characters in general. Yeah, I like so far I like all of the dynamics that the show has presented to me. It's all feels very grounded and they interact well together. Um Absolutely. Um did you have anything more to say about those characters?
well about nothing really with Lana. I guess well I guess I'll mention it earlier because I didn't have it on my notes. I like how you know Clark and Kyle may not see eye to eye on stuff as much. Well, clearly Lois and Kyle don't see eye
Yeah.
to eye as much,
Yeah.
but I really liked how like when Kyle put out the fire that Jordan caused. Nice going, Jordan. That Jordan caused. That like Clark was just like, you know what, whatever grudges, whatever. Like he thanked Kyle for doing what he can
Mhm.
to like help all the kids there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Morgan Edge. I guess we'll get into a little bit of episode 2. So now, you know what? I'm gonna be straight up honest. Normally in these shows, we have a what worked and what didn't work. When I'd only seen the pilot, there was one thing I would think of didn't work. But then episode 2, I was like, okay, it's better they did this in episode 2 instead of episode 1. So I don't have any what didn't work for this special because it was that good.
Wow, that's nice to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Morgan Edge is alluded to in the pilot. And then in episode 2, we see him for the first time, actually recast from the version we saw in Supergirl and a bit rebooted. So also, kind of like what you were saying earlier, it's nice how the Superman show feels the most standalone out of all of them. And I think
Yeah.
they should really try to keep that where have all the crossovers in the Flash or Supergirl, but try to keep Superman standalone as possible.
Yeah. I would certainly appreciate that. So
Yes, so we had Morgan Edge alluded to in the episode, and then we saw what was going on with him, and we see later in 3, 4, and 5 about what his storyline is going to be. And what I liked about having Morgan Edge on the show is that we really are looking at 2 different eras of Superman. With the Stranger and the Jonathan Jordan stuff, we're looking at the modern era of Superman comics, like the big sci-fi, the big action stuff, all
yeah.
that. But with Morgan Edge, and especially what we see in episode 3, Morgan Edge is giving us stories with Superman that we saw from the 1930s and 1940s of the businessman screwing over people and Superman trying to stick up for the little guy. And I loved how we're having kind of 2 kind of main antagonists, and they're bringing out 2 different but great, and they work well together eras for Superman.
Yeah.
So yeah, what'd you think about? And he's not in episode 1, but what'd you think about the Morgan Edge stuff?
Well, like I know nothing about that character's history in the comics or anything, so it wasn't like meaningful to me when I heard the name or anything. But like I really like so far he seems very hateable. I
Yes.
mean I don't
Oh,
and
real quick. when they name dropped him in the pilot, did you know he was important? Were you just like, oh, I guess that's an important name, or were you just like, oh, it's just probably just another guy? Did you know he would have some relevance later?
I I I don't, maybe somewhere in between where I was like, I could tell that that was an important name, but I didn't know necessarily that it was about to be one of the villains. Um, but yeah, the whole dynamic of him sort of taking being in charge of the Daily Planet and running things very and in a very antithesis to Lois Lane's like straight news sort of way of doing things. Um, I thought it was a very interesting, like, grounded, like I said, a stick it to the man story, but like you can tell that it's gonna grow into something bigger. Um, so I really like him as a villain in that I hate him.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Now, one of my favorite moments from the pilot was the moment where Jonathan and Jordan confront Clark about his heritage, and he finally tells them that he's Superman. And it felt really reminiscent of one of my favorite moments from the Smallville pilot, where Jonathan tells Clark about his origins, except this time Clark's role was reversed. And I thought that scene really showed Hoechlin. It really allowed Tyler Hoechlin, to perform as Clark and give a great performance in that scene. And it also kind of showed, I guess, how maybe Jordan feels that Jonathan and Clark are closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what'd you think of that scene? It was one of my favorite moments from the pilot, because, it felt like it just like the emotions, it felt real and all that. So what'd you think about that scene from the pilot where Clark finally tells them the truth?
Oh yeah, that was that was pretty it was pretty powerful. And as he was when he lifted a car.
He lifted a car. He flew with that car.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it felt like, even though, it's the pilot, the show's just starting, you could feel like that it very much was like a culmination, at least to Clark. It was this moment of culmination where it was like, okay, this is the moment. I've got to just let it all out. And he very begrudgingly is like, guess I'm going to have to lift a car to prove this and fly. And
he's like, oh, it's not like I have to do this every day, but here's a free show, kids.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, you could just tell like that was the moment where like this is the moment everything changes. So it was very cool.
Oh yeah, in the moment where like you could tell how hurt Jordan specifically felt when he's like telling him like, we've seen Superman before, we've seen him, and like he tells him how he lied to him all these years.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now let's get into the next big action scene of the pilot. It was Superman versus the Stranger. So we had it where Superman figured out where the guy who attacked the nuclear plant was. Oh, you know what I was thinking when watching the pilot? The first time, remember when General Lane goes to talk to Clark and says, I'm sure there's a phone booth or something you can suit up in?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then when Lois says no, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But then luckily it happened later, and it was worth the wait. So we had that great action scene. It showed we had, like, at least in the suit, the Stranger is a foe to Superman who can hold his own against. Great action scene. Now, well, I'm not a fan of Man of Steel, we gotta just say Man of Steel did raise the bar in terms of special effects for Superman. And you could tell they took the best parts of Man of Steel's flights and fight scenes without all the constant destruction and chaos. So that was cool to see. It felt like for the pilot, if we're going to go out a big action scene, this is the one to go out on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and it was nice how we had this big action scene. Superman gets the kryptonite out of him. And then we have a quick little gag where he suddenly stops right in front of the car and then gives a little wave.
Yeah.
So what'd you think about the action scene between Superman and the stranger in his Halo-looking costume?
Oh, yeah. Immediately when he came down, I was like, is this Doom guy? It looks also a lot like the costume that the character from Doom wears. Is this the scene? It feels like it happens very early on where it looks stabbed with like a kryptonite looking.
He's stabbed with the kryptonite. I think it's a knife or something. Or...
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Basically, a knife, a kryptonite blade knife kind of thing.
Yes,
where it did get like jammed in him.
Yeah, and then he falls and he's got to take it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was really cool. I was taken aback where I was like, what in the Halo Doom looking, what is this? Is this normal for Superman? And who is this? Is this, I was trying to think like, is this a villain I don't know about? And I would be blown away if I like, oh, it's the suit guy. It's him. Or if it was just like hiding an actual character.
How awful would it have been if it was like Lana's husband under the suit? You'd be like, oh, screw this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. The one thing I do need to learn, I'm still in the process of learning how the lore and how everything works, because part of me was just like, he gets stabbed like in the heart with kryptonite, isn't he just dead? Like, why isn't he just dead? And then he just pulled it out, and I was like, okay.
Well, if he pulls it out, then like the kryptonite isn't taking away his power. Sun heals him. It's all good.
Got it. So he just okay. It seemed like a weird attempt from him. I mean, I don't know how much this suit guy knows about this, but yeah, bad move on his part to just go away after that.
Oh, but, yes.
But no, it was really cool. I'm just nitpicking out of my own lack of knowledge.
Yes, as long as there's like no vital organs hit, then he'll be fine as long as he gets it out.
Got it.
But if he doesn't get it out, it will just keep sucking the life out of him.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and well, we said this a little bit before, but I really like the relationship between Jonathan and Jordan, specifically when Jordan gets in trouble with Sarah's boyfriend, and Jonathan, who thinks he has the powers, sticks up for him. And then what makes Jonathan unleash his heat vision is when he sees that Jonathan is in trouble and needs his help.
Yeah. Quite dramatic. This is another one of the things, like I said, that kept making me think of like Life is Strange and like that vibe of kind of thing, where it's like this very like teen drama situation of just like an interpersonal drama that feels very big because of the age that they're at. And then you're suddenly like, this could turn very bad, because either he is going to punch someone so hard, because at the time I didn't know who had the powers, but
yeah,
it's like, is he going to punch someone so hard that someone literally dies? Because that things could turn really dark really quickly. So it was a very tense scene. And then of course, I mean, I guess for me it was kind of like an interesting surprise. I thought that they might have been doing that, but I thought it was an interesting surprise when it's like, it's the other brother.
Yeah, because in the comics, only Jonathan Kent exists, and he has the powers. So it was a little switch
Oh,
from
I
like
see.
what
So
comic
they
fans are used
okay.
to.
So they purposefully tried to subvert expectations to the comic fans too.
Oh
Okay.
yes,
Interesting. Um yeah, I thought that was really cool. And uh a bit more interesting, I guess, that the guy who is seems a little more tough and is into football isn't the one that also has super strength,
yeah,
and that it adds an added drama to where he was putting himself out there assuming he had some kind of super
yeah.
strength. So
And then
yeah,
he had to
it's
learn the hard way. Oh no.
hmm that's right. So yeah, that was a really cool scene, I guess. I sort of feel like maybe you went a little too ham going to into kiss someone, dude.
Yeah, that was pretty
Like
fast.
I know. That was you know, you can chill out there, but yeah, very dramatic scene.
Yes, so that's the definition, misreading the room.
Yeah.
All right. Now, by the end of the episode, now I was I liked the idea as a Smallville fan. I liked the idea of Clark and Lois moving the family back to Smallville. But part of me was like, how exactly is that going to work? By the end of the episode, I was completely on board with the reason that
Yeah.
Clark and Lois were going to move the family back to Smallville. And, the reasons are it gives the boys a similar childhood to Clark's,
Hmm.
and it allows Clark to be closer with his family. And I also
Yeah.
think, like, look, let's be honest, most people who have watched The Flash or Arrow, they've seen Smallville. So it's a nice little way, like, hey, it's a nice little like way to pay tribute and stuff like that to the
Hmm.
show that
Yeah.
really kicked off this era that we've been living in for the past 20 years of DC television.
Yeah.
So by the end, I understood the reasoning. I was full support of it. I think it was a nice little nod to fans who maybe have been like, it'd be nice to have Smallville back. Well, we it's been 20 years. We probably shouldn't bring Smallville back, but here's like a nice little treat to do anyway. So, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts about setting the show in Smallville?
I mean, that's really exciting to me. Like uh Smallville's was, I guess, pretty easily my favorite Superman thing before. So setting the show in Smallville again, like I think it's just a really great setting for Superman to be in. Like I think that adds to the more grounded feeling of it. Like, um, I kind of like small town story type of things because then you have this like cast of characters that you grow to recognize a little more. I just
Yeah.
think it's a more interesting setting than like Metropolis or something like so.
So you
Yeah.
hope he never goes back. You're like, screw
Oh
Metropolis.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm probably fine with that. I mean, they can go back sometimes.
I mean,
That's fine.
technically, it only takes him like a second to get there. So,
Yeah. One thing I wasn't sure. I wasn't entirely sure just how far they're moving because Smallville is supposed to be in Kansas, right?
yeah.
Uh, where's Metropolis in
Well,
relation
we
to?
don't know where Metropolis is. I think in
Yeah.
Smallville, they said it was 3 hours away.
Okay. So that's what I was getting the feeling that it wasn't that far away. Where I was like, is Metropolis like an enormous city that's also in Kansas or something? Which maybe, but yeah. So it's kind of in that region. I was just trying to think of like how, like I guess 3 hours away is giving up quite a lot, but you can get back there. You can go for a
Yeah.
drive.
Because from what I remember, like, I mean, I think Smallville says 3 hours away. Whenever like when Jonathan Kent and Smallville had to go like the doctor's office, they'd be gone for the day in Metropolis and they could come
Yeah.
back at night.
Got
So it
it.
wasn't like they had to stay there for a week to do
Yeah.
something. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it was 2 days to drive or something.
Yeah. It's more like if you I don't know, live on the outskirts of New York or something, or in
Yeah.
like an Illinois suburb, and it's like, I gotta go to Chicago for the day because that's where the Secretary of State is, or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, got it. I'm
All
learning.
right. So, final thing from the pilot. Let's talk about the stranger who we learned is Captain Luthor. That's
Yeah.
right. So, now in the Arrowverse, Lex Luthor, played by John Cryer, who does a really good job, is on Supergirl for the third season. I won't get into how they've gone back on the well that many times on using her cousin's famous villain, but whatever.
Yeah.
So this was a nice way for them. If Supergirl is going to use Lex Luthor, this was a nice way for the, because how do you do Superman without Luthor? How do you do it?
Yeah.
And to be fair, there's nothing saying that he's not a version of Lex Luthor. He's just not the version that Clark has been going up against for all these years.
Right.
So nothing that says he's not Lex Luthor, but it was nice to have it where we still have a Luthor in this first season. And by doing it this way, they're able to kind of reboot a Luthor that fits more in this show than maybe John Cryer's would.
Mm-hmm.
And lets them put their own spin on the character. And I'm really interested in seeing where Captain Luthor's journey goes. So what'd you think about Captain Luthor?
Yeah, I like him as a villain and his clear pure vitriol for Kal-El because he refuses to say Superman.
Yes.
I actually, the way I did take it, like from based on what happened in episode 2, was I was kind of thinking of it as like he is a Lex Luthor, but just from a different universe, a different.
So you're thinking he is like a version of Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I'm not. That's not going off of much, but they did show like that he experienced Superman like in a much different light from a different.
That version of Superman reminded me so much of Henry Cavill Superman.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, yikes! Thank God we're not having that anymore.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. He's well, we already know the Lex Luthor from the DC EU, but but yeah, I was kind of taking it as he's Lex Luthor, but to be fair, I don't know if I even noticed that they didn't say his first name.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's probably a Lex Luthor, but since they haven't said it yet,
right.
I
think they're leaving it open for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I only have a few. I know we've talked a lot about the show, so should we get into maybe a few quick points on episode 2?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So in the episode, we have Superman, Clark and Jordan at the fortress. Nice to see Jor-El there. It was nice to see they have a similar relationship that Clark and Jor-El had in Smallville and the first Richard Donner Superman movie with Christopher Reeve. And we saw that Jonathan is a little jealous about everything that's been going on, which especially when how he has to go to school, but Clark and Jordan are flying off to the Fortress of Solitude together.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting dynamic there, especially because it probably was the feeling is probably reversed, whereas probably Jordan felt Jonathan and Clark were closer.
Yeah.
And Jordan's probably more closer to Lois. So what'd you think about, the return of Jor-El and then kind of we'll get in more about what Jonathan is going through in the episode later, but what are your thoughts about the return of Jor-El and then the feeling of that Jonathan has probably a jealousy?
Yeah. The jealousy bit is pretty interesting. I part of me hopes they don't like go into that like too much, because I
They
do
really
still,
haven't in the
yeah.
other episodes.
Okay. Yeah, because I think it's interesting, but it's just like I do like the dynamic of them, not deeply hating each other. It's just it's a sensible like teen like jealousy, feeling left out kind of thing. Um and Yeah, it's an interesting reversal of and it kept making me think like, yeah, wow, with this whole situation, how do you not mess up the kids with with this going on? That's tough. uh and For the scene in the fortress, if I were to make one tiny nitpick of everything I've seen so far, because I don't have anything else even negative at all to say, I found that return maybe just like kind of corny, where it was just like, it's your grandfather and he's looking
Well,
like
he's
a
a
ghost standing
hologram.
there.
He's
Yeah,
not
I
supposed to
know.
be a person. He's
Yeah,
dead.
I understand that. But
Would you prefer maybe like did you ever see in Smallville Jor-El how he was just a voice, and whenever you speak, like it would light up a little bit?
I probably would have preferred that. Um, it's for it to feel a little less mystical. Like, I think it was weird because like this kid has never experienced this much like supernatural stuff in his entire life, and then just all of a sudden he's like in a mystical looking cave witnessing holograms. That's not like a deep critique or anything, because I think it was overall like good writing and everything about it was good. It was just a little jarring, is all. To the uninitiated,
Oh,
not a
yes.
deep critique or anything.
Also, the fortress looks different than it did in Supergirl, and it looks like I like how with Superman especially, they're not afraid of like contradictions or anything, because it is like Superman is, let's be honest, he is the center of the Arrowverse.
Yeah,
He is the guy. Like we have Flash, Supergirl. I'm confident we'll see Green Arrow pop up eventually again.
yeah,
But really, Superman is the main guy of this universe.
yeah. Should really rename it the Superverse, but probably
Oh
not that either.
yes. I just call it the DC television universe, guys. That's
Yeah,
cool. That's good enough. God, imagine if the Marvel cinematic universe had been the Ironverse.
yeah,
I guess in a way it kind of is now, but whatever.
yeah.
All right, so we had the barbecue at the Cushing family residence, and I thought, no, actually, what we saw is the extended cuts, because you saw on the CW app, right?
Interesting. I saw the pilot on the CW app, and I saw the second episode on Hulu.
Okay, well,
Probably still the extended one, I'm
yeah,
imagining.
if you watched it on broadcast, it's a shorter version, but if you watch it like on demand or on iTunes, like I do,
yeah.
then it's the extended cut.
Okay. Yeah.
So this scene wasn't in the extended cut. I mean, it wasn't in the air cut, but we had it where Lana talks to Clark about how he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And once again, it really showed how I think maybe Clark really needs Lana at this point in his life to be a best friend, someone he can talk to about what's going on. And once again, it's someone that the audience is familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So what you think about the and also, Kyle is really pushing for Morgan Edge. And they could have, like, Kyle, like, he and Lois don't agree about Morgan Edge. but you can kind of see his point about like, hey, there's some bad stuff, but the good outweighs the bad, even though we know that Morgan Edge is the villain. You can kind of see a little bit where Kyle's coming from.
I mean, I definitely think with the sort of like little like political disagreement, not seeing eye to eye on things, uh, it makes for like a compelling thing where I think anyone viewing it is gonna take it differently. For me, I I would also hate Kyle if I were like I would not be on his side either. But that's it. I think that because there's uh I think because there is this like sort of political divide sort of thing that they're experiencing in this small town, it kind of makes Lois Lane maybe seem a little and probably feel a little uh like an outsider in a weird
Yeah, was
way.
that this episode where she talked about that? Maybe episode 3.
It's possible. I don't. That was just something I was feeling. So it's
Oh,
possible that's in
okay.
episode 3, and I was feeling something correctly.
Yeah. I also liked how like Lois and Kyle disagree, but it's not like they hold grudges against each other. You know what I mean? Like
No,
they
that's what I was
still
saying.
try to be civil.
Like
Kyle, let's be honest,
it
he's an a-hole. But
yeah. No, that's what I was saying. It does feel like people interacting who have no reason to hate each other, but they just have like deep political disagreements or something. Like
yes.
it feels like that kind of thing where there's an awkwardness in the conversations because they know like how each other feels, and they disagree, so there's an awkwardness, and he's like tofu burger.
Oh yeah.
And
Lois, she's a ribs girl.
yeah, so there's that awkwardness, but it's not like an actual real rivalry or something.
You know what I really liked was when Clark and Lois are at the barbecue, and then Clark goes 1 hour and Lois goes tops.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing I thought was interesting was we find out Jordan's lack of powers feels like, and then like it's gotta be horrible when you're in Jordan's spot, knowing your dad is the most powerful person in the world, and hearing Jor-El say he'll never be as powerful as you. And I think
Right.
that it may have like made Jordan and Clark less close or whatever. So
Hmm.
I thought that was an interesting route to go. So what'd you think about that? Because we all just assumed, oh, he'll have powers like Clark, but may
Yeah.
not be exactly like what we thought.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think it's much more interesting than him just being like uh I don't think I would enjoy as much if it was just like the show just became purely like training the next Superman or something. Like he's just as powerful. Let me show you the ropes. It would almost feel like like an anime or something where it's just like we need to get more powerful so we can
Oh
beat the
yeah.
bad guys, and every episode is about getting more powerful. I wouldn't enjoy that as much. So the fact that it's more dealing with this emotional weight of just like your grandpa saying you're never going to be good enough.
Oh
In
yes.
in a way, I do like that. I think it makes it more interesting, though
Yeah.
I feel bad for him.
Now, we talked about earlier about how usually in the canon, General Lane and Clark have disagreements.
Yeah,
But because we're entering their lives later than what we see in other versions, that they've come to work together.
yeah,
But I thought it was really interesting to see how upset General Lane was that Clark shared his secret with the boys. And you can kind of see like how different they are in that moment where General Lane is thinking, no, it's your duty first or whatever. And Clark is trying to have it where he's both fulfilling his responsibilities and giving his family a normal life. So what'd you think about that? About like General Lane and his unhappiness with Clark sharing his secret to the boys.
That I do like. That is something I did kind of feel, where it was just like, this is such a complicated situation. Like, it really does feel like, even if the reason makes sense, like telling like your kids growing up knowing you're Superman, that's gonna mess them up. But also just knowing that you've been lied to and that so much of what happened to you in your life, like you have to reframe so much of what happened. You're like, that's really damaging too. So like I can understand where he's coming from, that he's like upset about them knowing. But it's also like, I mean, now that they know that there's some power that he has that he possibly doesn't have total control of, there's really no choice but to just try and start coming clean and trying to be responsible about it. So it's a very complicated situation. And I'll say I had no it's interesting knowing that this is like a common this divide or this rivalry sort of between him and Superman is part of the history of the character, because I didn't know that actually.
So now this episode, it ended with General Luthor or Captain Luthor giving him that key thing, right? And says, like, for my world, we work together.
Yeah.
Now that you know that they've had this history of they don't trust each other, do you think somewhere in the season General Lane could turn on Superman?
I was definitely thinking that's a possibility. I know that that's what they're hinting at. I don't know which way it's going to go. I think I'm going to have to see how it plays out. I guess I would say I think it's possible.
All right. All right, another one. Lois leaving the planet. I thought that I mean, when you have some, so we see Lois is having this rough time and she's really unhappy with how the planet is run by Morgan Edge. I thought, number one, that was really cool how she didn't just sell out. Like, she knows Morgan Edge is an evil dude and, you know, is not just going to let him do whatever he wants to her articles. I also thought that it was real important that Lois make a sacrifice, kind of like everyone else is, about leaving their life behind from Metropolis. And I think that having her be at the Smallville Gazette, where she can be a little bit more in charge, she doesn't have to worry about a corporate overlord watching over everything she does, is very interesting. And I really liked how, you know, at the beginning of the episode, she's talking about leaving a place you loved. And we're assuming she's talking about Metropolis, but really, she's talking about the Daily Planet, which I thought was a great twist.
I thought that was really awesome, because at the beginning of the episode, I almost thought that was kind of corny, where it was just like you're talking about Metropolis. We didn't really get to know that in this show. And it was just like it's like a little cliche, but the fact that it's actually little do you know comes back in the episode, and it's actually talking about the Daily Planet. Like, that was really cool.
All right, last thing we'll bring up for the episode is Evil Superman. Boy, that man, did I get really... I flashed back to
Yeah.
Man of Steel and BVS.
Yeah.
So now we understand why Captain Luthor is the way he is.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it more interesting because now, like, not only does Superman have to defeat Captain Luthor, he has to show I'm not that person, you know. I'm the good Superman. See, red, yellow, blue.
Yeah. He's Superman is necessarily working against someone's deeply held beliefs uh about the world. That definitely makes for a more interesting villain. It actually kind of makes for a relatable villain because you can consider what in your life are you being a villain about because you're not reevaluating your beliefs. It's kind of a good moral. This isn't unwanted answers, but it's kind of a good moral.
Always nice to have a good moral.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm curious to see how he continues to tackle with, like, this isn't the same Superman. Like, I get where you're coming from, that you would probably think of yourself as a hero when you had a weird alien guy zap all your friends to death. But it was different.
Oh, yes. Now, so we've gotten through what we wanted to for the storylines of the episode.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, we maybe add a new segment to this show, which I think I talked about to you about a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, if you like this, check this out.
Yeah.
Yes. So, let's see. Where are my notes? All right. So, if you liked Superman Lois, one thing you should check out is The Flash. So, The Flash is the show the most similar to Superman Lois and Smallville, and the main showrunner of Superman Lois was the main showrunner of seasons 2 through 5 of The Flash. And this season in particular has the Flash's daughter coming from the future to see her dad. So we kind of have a similar situation that Clark is in it, happening to Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you like this, I've read a lot of this. I've really been enjoying it lately. You should check out Superman Rebirth. This is the storyline that a lot of Superman Lois is based on. So when DC did their relaunch, they had it where, oh my, it can get a little complicated. Just short end. Imagine we had the DCEU, right?
Mm-hmm.
Henry Cavill, Superman, dead. Yeah. And then because of like time travel, everything sucked in the universe, Tom Welling Superman is there with Lois and his son Jonathan. So
yeah,
it's a little bit like that. But this is a really great entry point to Superman because you don't really need to know a lot of the backstory about that. This, I think, really introduces you to the character. It's a Superman issue 1 type thing.
Cool, yeah.
So this introduces. Now, they had done a little mini-series earlier, but this is where it's the main continuity canon.
Yeah.
So this has Superman Lois living on a farm, not Smallville, because they're trying to keep they're not going out as their identities as Clark Kent and Lois Lane. They're pretending they have other identities.
Oh, okay.
So they're living on a farm. We see Jonathan gain his powers and all that. So if you liked Superman Lois, check out. This is the one that I think this is the earliest one chronologically. DC Universe Rebirth, Superman Volume 1, Son of Superman.
Awesome.
Yes. So
Rex.
Real quick, let's fire off some thoughts about what's next. What's next for Superman Lois? Because God, we have like 2 months until there's a new episode.
Well, all right, you literally know what's next for 3 more episodes. Than
yes, I do. All right, so number 1, will Supergirl appear in the show before her show ends? Now, normally I think I want to try and keep Superman as standalone as possible, but she's such an important Superman character that I would like
Yeah.
for her to appear in some way, kind of like if there was a Batman show and a Robin show, I'd want Robin to show up in the Batman show.
Right. Yeah.
So, number one, do you think we will have some type of crossover before Supergirl ends? And do you think it would be either on Superman Lois or would it be on Supergirl? I kind of lean maybe it would be on Supergirl more than Superman Lois, but
I was
what do
thinking
you
it'd be
think?
more likely. I was thinking it'd be more likely to be on Supergirl because I don't know. Superman and Lois does feel like it's being a little more separate. At most, rather than any kind of converging storylines, I maybe towards the end of like Superman and Lois season or whatever, maybe there might be something slightly above a cameo, like just a little bit of screen time, but I don't know how that would work in. I see it more being in Supergirl where crossover has already been established and stuff.
Now, there was going to be a crossover between Superman, Lois, and Batwoman, and it got canceled because of COVID restrictions, right? They don't want the shows to intermingle.
Yeah.
Do you think COVID might make it so that we won't have a crossover between the two before Supergirl ends? Or Supergirl has a longer season, has 20 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think with the way things are now, by the way, guys, timeline for our time capsule thing, it's getting worse now, guys. COVID is spreading. It's getting worse. But anyway.
I didn't know that, actually.
You didn't know that? Oh, lucky you. Like, the numbers are going up now because, yeah, people are like, oh, it's over, guys. Yippee!
Yeah.
But it's
I was worried about that because people are very much like, people are getting vaccinated. Well,
especially now that spring break time.
Yeah.
All right. So do you think maybe because of COVID, we might not have a crossover before Supergirl ends? Or
yeah, I could definitely see that. It makes it much more difficult. I don't think there's going to be a full crossover type of thing.
All right. Now, here's an original thought I had before the show started that I'm not so sure on anymore. From the trailers, from everything we saw, I was so sure that Jordan Kent was going to turn out to be evil. I almost thought that the guy in the suit was Jordan from the future.
Oh.
I was so sure he was going to be the villain.
Yeah.
And now I'm not so sure, but what do you think? You think he could be a villain or probably not really?
Oh,
wait, maybe I should say two more reasons why I thought he'd be a villain.
Okay, yeah.
When you hear the description about Jordan Kent, he has social anxiety. He'd rather spend time with his video games. I'm like, he loves technology. That's a little bit like Lex Luthor. And I'm like, the kid has a lot of hair. What if he were to be bald? Like maybe he'd be like a little Lex Luthor clone. Right. So what do you think? I don't think he'll be evil, but what do you think?
From just the context of the show, and I didn't really get that impression at all. Like, he just seems like a troubled kid who, like, it almost seemed like I get the opposite impression, really, that it's like the fact that he is like a little more troubled and more introverted to me says that the story seems to be more of him becoming a hero, not a villain. So
yeah. So now, before the episode aired, a lot of people were talking about how will this tie into Crisis on Infinite Earths? And I'm like, can we just move on from that piece of garbage? Can we please move on? But I did have an idea. What if? Back when I was saying, could Jonathan be evil? I mean, could Jordan be evil?
Yeah.
I was thinking, in Crisis, because everything got rebooted in Crisis.
Yeah.
It started with baby Jonathan Kent, and that was the only one. Post Crisis, now there's two twins. I was wondering, Lex was at the beginning of time in Crisis. Could Jordan be something created by Lex to hurt Superman, eventually have him turn evil, and then Superman tries to redeem Jordan, and then it ends with Jordan sacrificing his life to save Superman. And then, if we want to get really dark, we see John Cryer's Lex there. Right after Jordan is killed, giving his life to save Superman, and Superman just grabs Lex by the neck, and we see Superman's eyes turn red, and he doesn't do it, but just for a minute he thinks about it. He thinks of finally getting rid of Luthor, but then at the end he's like, "You were wrong about Jordan, and I'll never be what you want me to be, Lex." So that's just my idea before the show aired. Don't think it will happen now, but
yeah.
What do you think? Possibility or no?
No, yeah, it's not the feeling I'm getting. It feels more straightforward to me. I don't think there are going to be any more twists like that regarding Jordan. The most I could see is like maybe Luthor would think like, maybe I can turn him against Superman, and that would be an attempt, but that's the extent of it. I think we're looking at a more straightforward Jordan prediction.
All right. Now we have two villains going on, Morgan Edge and Captain Luthor.
Yeah.
Could you see them doing a Batman Forever or Batman Returns where they team up, or do you think they'll be separate the whole time? I kind of think maybe somehow they'll team up. Towards the end, season finale, they're working together.
It would almost feel weird if it was completely separate the entire time. I would predict that somehow they're going to cross paths in some way, probably some kind of team up. To what extent, I don't know, but it just seems like that would have to happen.
All right. Final thing that could happen. Do you think, here's two things. Number one, do you think Captain Luthor will stay hating Superman, or will they eventually work together? And number two, could the season finale be red and blue Superman versus black suit evil Superman?
Whoa. That I don't know how that would happen. What I will say, I am feeling maybe with the way they have set up like Luthor so far, is I could see him turning around. He's a more sympathetic Luthor in general, at least as far as I can tell. So, I don't know about full Kylo Ren like starting to smile and be more chipper, but I could see him turning around a bit.
Do you think we'll see Superman versus Superman in the finale, the season finale?
That's very cool and comic booky. And they established it like I could. I could.
How awesome would that be?
Yeah. It would be like it would be like an Injustice
yes.
scene, and I like how they, by the way, in the pilot established that they know who Superman is, that the kids know who Superman is, in that Injustice is also canon I mean,
technically, if you think about it,
yeah.
There will probably be merchandise of Superman.
Yeah, so there would be video games too.
Did you? There's this great Superman anime movie called Superman versus the Elite, and they have it where Lois and Clark are walking past like a TV store, and there's this really cheesy rocking Bullwinkle type Superman show that they watch, and then Lois looks at Clark, and Clark looks at her and says, "The producer said be educational."
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, so let us get into our final thoughts on Superman and Lois. I won't lie, I think I might watch the pilot again tonight after doing this special.
Yeah.
Yes. Isn't it nice to talk about Superman in a positive light for once?
Yeah.
I mean, can you see there he is?
There he is. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right there, we got the two
yeah.
anchors of the Arrowverse now.
Yeah.
Right there.
For sure. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm enjoying this enough in a way I didn't expect to where I mean I'd be perfectly happy talking about future episodes too. I'm probably gonna try.
When you watch them, let's do it. It's not like we got any movies coming out soon.
Yeah, I know exactly. Could do it in chunks. I don't know. Oh yes. And I mean, an update on my just relationship to TV. We completely ditched cable and Comcast and Xfinity here, and we now have Hulu Live. So yeah, I know I don't know if I can watch it live through that, but I know I can get them the next day.
Yeah, well, if you will get them the next day, you'll have the extended cuts.
Oh yeah, that might be just better then.
Yes. So I don't even bother DVRing it. I'm just like, well, I have the season pass from iTunes, so I just watch it on there.
Yeah.
All right, now let's get into our final thoughts.
Cool.
For me, I had almost impossibly high expectations for this show, and it exceeded them. Number one, it kicked off a new era for the Arrowverse and gave it another anchor character to be with the Flash now that Green Arrow is done. And for a difficult job in following Smallville, they were up to the task, and boy, did they deliver to create a show that deserves to follow Smallville. And they got Superman back on track again, and it's something he's needed for a while, and there's no other way to say it. Guys, for the first time, Superman fans in a long time, we finally have a victory. Like, we won. Like, we got a winner right here. So there we go. Absolutely. What are your final thoughts on Superman Lois?
I'll just say, to put it simply, I think it's great, and I think it's a great rebirth in a way. A great
ironic how you say that, because that's what the comic is based on.
That's I was getting a little at that, but
yes. Nice little wordplay.
Yeah.
That's the title of the season premiere of Supergirl that aired this week.
Wordplay?
Rebirth.
Okay.
No, that'd be a weird episode.
Would it be wordplay?
Probably an episode of Mixie Spitalik.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say his name backwards.
I think it's a great starting point for the character, for a TV universe, and I think they've got something pretty good going for them. It's a pretty good. Like I said, they did all of the things that all of the ways that you could do Superman right. It seems like they're doing. So, good on you.
All right, guys. There we go for our special episode on Superman and Lois. Boy, what a journey it was. Boy, what an exciting moment it was. We finally got it. For years, betting on this show for it to exist. We finally got it.
Yep.
Now, we didn't.
Don't say we didn't get you anything.
Yes. Now, it didn't happen a lot this episode, but every once in a while, you may find that, wait, why is there no ground beneath me? And you realize you're falling and falling and falling. And, if you're lucky, maybe Superman will catch you and carry you up, and away. But until then, as you continue to plummet, you realize that you will and forever will keep falling down that rabbit hole.